North Korea is not a urgent issue relative to other issues like Ukraine and the Middle East. But at some point next year, there might be some focus on North Korea issue again. So what issues are important right now for Koreans after we welcome a new U.S. president? Can you give us advice and recommendations?
Sure. Well, we can start first with North Korea and Russia. We've seen news about North Korean troops entering Russia, now deployed to the Kursk region. And that has led South Korea to consider providing lethal weapons to the Ukraine. This battle will really be a true test of how far this relationship will go. We've already seen it cemented through the defense pact. If the Russians are able to push back the Ukrainians, that would be not only a tactical military victory for Russia, but a big PR win for North Korea and Russia and for their alliance. And certainly Kim would come out on top. It could lead to more additional troops being sent to Russia. So there's a lot at stake, I think, in how North Korean troops perform in the Kursk region. If North Korean troops are decimated, then that would look bad for Kim, and I think he would think twice whether he wants to send another battalion or dispatch more troops. But if the Russia-North Korea relationship cools down, or if the war ends and North Korea proves less useful to Russia, consider possibly reaching out to Trump. Kim Jong Un is opportunistic, and so if he thinks that Trump might agree to some type of engagement, we may see a Trump-Kim summit. And let me just say, though, that under a second Trump administration, the range of opportunities and risks for U.S.-North Korea relations is much wider.
Right, right.
The default position is that Republicans and even Trump have a fairly hawkish stance on North Korea. When I hear from former Trump officials and other Republicans, a lot of it's about we need to reinforce the sanctions regime. It's about isolating and containing North Korea, talking about human rights, And so the default position for a second Trump administration is to follow that hardline approach to North Korea, given the Republican Party's general distrust of communist regimes and conservatives' penchant for pursuing hawk engagement with North Korea. But this is where we get back to the inconsistencies of the paradox. Despite Republicans being hawkish towards North Korea, Trump himself doesn't have any ideological blinders. And
Right.
I think he'd be more open to dialogue with North Korea than those Republicans who hold more deep-rooted ideological reservations about engaging with a nuclear-armed, human rights violating pariah state. There's three reasons that could suggest Trump might resume discussions with Kim if Kim sends him some kind of signal that he wants to meet. First is that Trump has developed a personal rapport with Kim, and he still mentions how he gets along very well with Kim Jong Un. And it's strange that even though there's this chill in U.S.-North Korea relations, it doesn't seem to affect how Trump looks at Kim as an individual leader. And also, Trump sees himself as a deal maker, so he might be motivated to complete unfinished business
Right.
and seal the deal with North Korea, even if the agreement doesn't replicate the demands of the grand bargain that he tried to strike in Hanoi back in 2019. Lastly, there's Trump's ego and desire to shape his own legacy. That could be a motivating factor to engage Kim Jong Un. He might want to be seen as the first president to resolve the North Korea issue, even if that doesn't necessarily lead to denuclearization. But the key question is, we don't know what's to be gained by another Trump-Kim summit or what Trump might offer Kim in exchange for North Korea dialing down provocations or suspending its nuclear program. Because I don't think Kim Jong Un is going to give up his nuclear program. And that's where skeptics worry that Trump might strike a bad deal with Kim that enables the regime to preserve a nuclear status, but without making any real commitments to denuclearization.
That's very important observation. The last question is if, as you said, if North Korea contributes a lot to the recovery of Kursk and the alliance has successful outcome, do you think Kim Jong feels more confident in asking Putin to transfer ICBM-related technologies such as reentry one, which will be used very significantly in the negotiation with the U.S. to press President Trump. So worst case scenario here is that President Trump knows that there is a possibility of North Korea completing ICBM that can attack continental U.S. and alienating South Korea's interest in restraining North Korea's tactical nuclear weapons and declare that North Korean nuclear issue is solved, which will decouple the security concerns between U.S. and South Korea. So we are worried about it.
I hadn't seen Kim using that as a bargaining chip, but I do believe that Kim would feel that it's in his right to ask Putin for more nuclear and technological assistance, at least more
Mm,
technology assistance on rockets, on missiles, space technology. I wouldn't be surprised if he's already asked, just because he's committed soldiers to Russia, and that's what,
right, right.
Russia needed. They wanted more manpower in addition to weapons. So in some ways, we have to assume the worst. There's no intelligence yet that suggests that this happened, but it's certainly within the realm of possibility. But I saw that as a move by Kim to really just reinforce and enhance his own weapons capabilities, not necessarily because he wants to bargain that away with Trump. This is where I'm, going back and forth. On one hand, I feel that Kim has no reason to really come back to the negotiating table with the United
Right.
States. We've already heard that he was very upset about the failure of Hanoi, but because he has a very strong relationship with Putin right now, and that may grow. To some degree, I think the Chinese aren't happy, but they're still trading with North Korea.
Mhm.
North Korea can still muddle through. He wouldn't necessarily want to jump into any kind of negotiations with Trump. Maybe not in year one, maybe not even year two, but at some point, depending on where the Russia-North Korea relationship goes, Kim may then try to reach out to Trump and appeal to that personal rapport again, maybe send another letter or make a remark. If Putin and Trump begin engaging, Putin may encourage the two to also try
Right.
to reach out. And that's where we get back. We were focusing on the Korean Peninsula and North Korea, but we step back again and see this linkage between the Korean Peninsula and global geopolitics. That's what will make the second Trump administration's foreign policy different from the first. I think it's much harder to treat U.S. North Korea relations as a separate, a distinct issue. It's going to be tied to Russia relations. It's U.S. relations with China, with
Mhm.
Russia and North Korea. So it makes for a much more complex situation for the second Trump administration. I hope he has able people to really address these issues. That was the fear, before the elections, that Trump would pick people around him that are completely inexperienced, that don't know how to handle these deep complex problems, or who don't have the knowledge or experience working on uh, complex global problems. And the record's been mixed so far. There's still a month before we get to inauguration.
Okay. Thank you very much. He gave us a lot of, enlightening insights. There are so many more questions to ask, but I promise you we can come back with Dr. Yo in the future. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Chan.